Hello and welcome back, everybody. So update, I have finished reading through Ezra and now I am on to Nehemiah, the section of the Old Testament. And today's reading is going to be Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 29. You warned them to return to your law, but they became proud and obstinate and disobeyed your commands. They did not follow your regulations, by which people will find life if only they obey. They stubbornly turned their backs on you and refused to listen. In your love, you were patient with them for many years and sent your Spirit, who warned them through the prophets, but they still don't listen. So once again, you allowed the people of the land to conquer them. So, anyways, the reason I chose this is because this is a recurring theme throughout the Old Testament. Is people turn to God when they're in trouble. When the trouble subsides, well, they turn to God when they're in trouble. When the trouble goes away and they get back to prosperity and a happy life, then they forget all about God and they start to sin and they start to break all the rules. And then God has to be patient with them. Finally, His patient kind runs out and He punishes them, and that cycle just keeps going and going and going. So I think this cycle, there's big versions of this cycle and small versions, and I've just been meditating on this for days and days and days, is this theme of the Bible. So a big version would be coronavirus, right? Right now, pandemic going on, coronavirus, people are panicking and freaking out about it. I'm sure people are going to turn to God during this period. I guarantee it will happen, especially the people who get sick are going to turn that way. And for family who get sick, especially their older relatives who have a chance of a higher chance of dying, they're definitely going to turn towards God. And, people will probably start going back to church, probably start reading the Bible a little bit more. But after everything calms down and clears the way, then people have a tendency to start attributing the protection that they found in God to other things. So, for instance, God could make it possible that a vaccine is found tomorrow. So you can look at that two ways. You can say, okay, well, God gave us a vaccine that should take years and years to develop, and we just found it by luck this day. You could look at it as God, or you could just say that, as our scientists were so genius that they came up with it even quicker. And I think that's why the cycle happens, is it's human arrogance that starts to take miracles gifted to them by God and starts to explain them away as just things that happen because some awesome human somewhere. And in your own lives, I think this also happens. So we attribute things when we don't have an answer, when we don't have a solution, we look to God because that's our only choice. But then as soon as God comes to us and He resolves the issue, like maybe we have no idea how to find money to pay our bills right now with what's happening, and all of a sudden, we get a tax refund. All of a sudden, the government decides to send us all $1,000. All of a sudden, we find some money that was just floating out there. And in those cases, again, people they pray to God for the money, and then once the money's there and God delivers, then they don't even give God credit. They say, oh, well, that was my government taking care of me, or, oh, well, that was my money that I just kind of forgot that I had, etc., etc., etc. So we've talked about this part before, but the reason that I keep thinking about this so much is the end result of this to me is you hit a point where you're thinking about, well, everything is from God. And by everything, I mean the motivation to make these videos is from God. This morning, I woke up early because my mom had said she wanted to go on a walk. And I knew that if I didn't wake up, if I didn't get out of bed early, we wouldn't go for a walk, right? So this morning, I got up. I was still tired, but you know what? God pushed me. God gave me the motivation to get up and go on a walk. And, it made her day. And that I could attribute to me digging deep, right? Like, oh, I love my mother so much, and I wanted her to feel good, and I dug deep inside myself, and I got out of bed. But I realized, I was like, actually, no, God gave me that power. God gave me that love. He delivered that love to me that got me out of bed and got me going. And the more I start to think about this way, the more it makes sense, because once you realize everything's from God, then humility is easy. There's nothing to be humble about, because nothing is because of you. Everything is because of God. Everything is to somebody else's credit, not to your own. You're simply the vessel, you're the tool that is acting. The counterpoint to this is if you start to think of life that way, then the thing comes to, okay, well, what's your choice, right? Like, God gave us free will. I think that's another theme in the Bible, is we were given free will. And if God gives me the motivation to do X, Y, Z, then where's my free will? And to me, the free will is, do you follow the motivation, right? So in your life, are you doing, in my life, I'll just use myself, am I doing what I love? Am I doing what makes me happy? Are my days happy? Are my days content? Or are my days miserable? And to me, that becomes the test of if you're doing what God wants you to do. If you are living a happy life and you feel joy, then you are following God's path. If you are miserable and more depressed every day and more despondent and just life seems to matter less and less, you're definitely going against what God wants, because God, remember, is all of our Father. He is a parent. He is an extremely loving parent. He is the utmost epitome of love. So, what parent would want their child to suffer and have a miserable life every day? So that's kind of where I came, and it's really interesting because I was raised to understand the concept of duty. And a part of duty is doing things you don't want to do because it's your responsibility, right? And I always went that way in my life, and I always pushed myself, and I would have terrible, miserable days. From the outside, they looked successful because I was doing things that were successful to society, but inside myself, I was miserable. And then the last thing I want to talk about on this note is I do want to be clear, there is a difference between being pushed, working hard, and being miserable. So an example, like, let's look if we work out. Working out, something everybody's probably done in their life at some point. So when you're running, there is a point where it sucks. It hurts. Your lungs kind of start to burn a little bit. Your muscles are getting tired. And you can choose to push past that, right? You can choose to push past it. And, some people say by pushing past it, you will improve quicker. And it does suck, and it's not fun to push past it, right? But at the same time, some people love to push past it. Like, my wife is a great example. She runs. She likes that. Like, that burn, she loves it. And on that token, working out for her as a daily habit is so much easier. For her, working out is something she looks forward to every day. Whereas for a lot of people, it's not something they look forward to. And that's my point. God gave her that gift, whereas God doesn't give that gift to everybody. So hopefully that kind of makes clear what I mean by God gives you the motives, the things that will lead you towards happiness in life. And if you just follow them, it's just good for everybody involved. So anyways, it's just something I've been thinking a lot about, and I wanted to get this video out about it. Anyways, that does it, and I see you. Peace, love, all that good stuff to everybody, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.